Hi everyone, and welcome back to another video here on the channel. So today we're going to be talking about how I keep and care for my dogs, as we get a lot of questions around how I care for my dogs and what I do to keep my dogs. The questions that I've been getting quite regularly recently is, are my dogs fixed or neutered or spayed? And as you can see right now, only the two boys are out, and this is because both Kate and Storm are in season right now. So that pretty much answers that question. No, I do not neuter or spay or fix my dogs as standard, and this is pretty much standard in the working dog industry. Almost all working dogs in the UK are kept complete. And this for some people can be a bit of a controversial subject, so hear me out here. So if it's just not standard in working dogs to get dogs neutered or spay, it can affect their development, and I really don't see it as being necessary. Now I know some of you are going to think, well, there are certain cancers, certain ailments that your dog can get as a result of not having it neutered and spayed. You're absolutely correct. However, there are also certain ailments and cancers which are much more likely if you do get your dog neutered and spayed, so it kind of cancels each other out. And if you look at the percentages of dogs which aren't neutered which get these cancers, it's only about 1% more likely. So when we talk about this, or the way I feel about it is, and to put this sort of crudely, I have testicles that makes me at a higher risk of having testicular cancer. I'm not in a rush to have them removed. Other than that, and especially when we're talking about working dogs, less so about pet dogs, a lot of the problems that you can have from neutering and spaying a dog as a result of getting your dog neutered and spayed, 1 in 3 dogs will experience weight problems because of being neutered or after being neutered or spayed. Like I say, for pet dogs this isn't going to be a huge problem. For working dogs, if your working dog is carrying too much weight, it's got extra weight in the body, that's extra strain on the muscles and joints, that's extra strain on the heart. So it could potentially, a dog carrying extra weight, it could seriously shorten its length of working career, but it could also shorten its life with a working dog which has to do big amounts of activity. And I'm not against dogs being neutered or spayed. There are good reasons for it. The best reason for me is population control. We have enough dogs in shelters these days. We have enough sort of stray animals. I'm in the position where I can control which dogs are out. I can even have them out, all of them out, while I'm watching them. I wouldn't leave them alone for 10 seconds because nature will take over, but I can actually stop them. But I generally will have, if dogs are in heat, I will split the time that they get out of their kennels that they get. And I realise that I'm in a very unique situation where I am able to do that. For most cases, especially in pet homes where you have a male and a female dog, at least one of them is going to have to be fixed to stop them from having puppies every time your dog gets in heat. And another one that I get asked a lot is, how do I keep my dogs clean? How do I keep their coats so well cared for? So I very rarely wash my dogs, and Echo is probably not the best example right now because he's got straw all in his hair, but straw's straw, it's not really dirty, it's just straw. But I always brush my dogs, I don't really wash them. Shampoos and washing your dog too often actually washes out some of the oils in your dog's coat. Those oils are there to protect your dog's coat and keep your dog clean. It's what helps mud slide right off. So when my dogs get dirty, normally I let it dry, I brush it out. Works absolutely perfectly. Now, I'm not saying that's what happens all of the time. There are things that don't come out. If the dog gets extremely muddy, I will hose it down and give it a quick shower outside. And if it's something that's really, really disgusting, like cat mess or something like that, that's really going to stick in there, then it's obviously necessary to wash your dog in those circumstances. But mostly I try and avoid washing my dogs, and I do as much as I can with a brush, because Brushing your dog regularly also gets rid of dead hair, it stops mats, it stops tugs. Brushing will do 95% of the work. And then mostly with the working dogs, they'll just get a quick hose down outside if that's what they need. Very rarely will they get a proper bath which has shampoos and things like that. So where do I keep my dogs? So obviously the working dogs that are in full-time work stay outside. Kate, who is now semi-retired, is semi-retired to the house. Monty, who is a pet dog, lives in the house. Very quickly, I've explained this before, but dogs that live outside, especially border collies, which were built for this climate outside, their bodies, their coats are reactional to the environment that they live in. So if you want them to go out and work in that environment for 8 hours, they have to adapt to that environment. And dogs that are living outside full time will adapt much better to the environment that they're going to be working in. Their coats will grow in a lot more fully, and that will keep them warm and dry, and they will be warm and dry all winter living outside. Again, it is, border collies were bred here in this country for living outside, and especially when we talk about farm bred dogs, 95% of all working border collies in the UK are kept outside. So the breed has very much been kept an outside breed when we talk about working bred lines. And there are exceptions. So as you'll have seen on the channel before, we bring the dogs inside in extremely bad weather, especially windstorms, because I mean the kennels are right under some big old cherry trees. If a limb was to come down in a windstorm and injure one of the dogs, I would never forgive myself. We bring them in and things like lightning, because we have had lightning strikes very close to the house. As you can see, Storm's kennel has a sort of aluminium frame, so that could attract lightning. And if the temperatures ever got extremely low, we would bring them in. Now here in Scotland, our average winter temperature is about 4 degrees, which is about 4 degrees Celsius, which is about 40 degrees Fahrenheit. The temperature does fluctuate. I mean, it was down to -5 last week, but these aren't really what we would consider extremely low temperatures. The dogs are more than capable of handling that. If it was to go below sort of like -8 or something like that, that's when we would probably bring them inside. While we're on the subject of kennels, something I get asked a lot is, what do I use as bedding? So historically, and as you can see here, we tend to use straw and blankets at the moment. We use a hell of an amount of blankets every year. Like, you wouldn't believe me if I told you how many blankets we use, with straw in the winter and with wood chips in the summer. That's actually going to be changing this year. So I've actually got the dogs something for Christmas, which we're going to try out for a while anyway. And this is because whereas the straw is good insulation and stuff, as you can see, it gets dragged out of the kennels every day. It gets dragged up and down the kennels. It gets caught in the side of the kennels. It looks messy. I mean, it's clean, but it looks messy. It tends to get everywhere. You're constantly having to replace it. You're constantly having to sweep it up, sweep it out of the kennels. So we are going to be trying something new at Christmas time. So in the Christmas video, you'll see what we're going to be trying. We'll still be using a lot of blankets. We're going to talk about nutrition and how I try and keep my dogs in a good condition. So one of the first questions everybody asks is, what do I feed the dogs? And this is a very surprising question for me, because this channel is sponsored by a branded dog food. You'll notice at the end of every intro and at the outros, a dog food brand pops up, and that is the dog food brand that we use. So it's Dr. John's, which is made, of course, by Gilbertson and Page. Gilbertson and Page, of course, have a whole brand of Dr. John's. They also have 2 other brands of dog food, the Gilper brand and the Arkwright's brand. The reason I use Gilbertson and Page is the reason I use Dr. John's, it's very affordable. And I shopped around when I first started keeping sheepdogs, tried lots of different brands, tried expensive brands, tried cheaper brands, and Dr. John's just always kept my dogs in the best condition that I could see, and like I feel like it always kept my dogs in the best condition and with the best energy levels. For Storm here and Kate, They are on the Dr. John's Gold, which just seems to keep them in a good condition. Echo has the Dr. John's hypoallergenic duck and salmon flavour, which slightly higher in protein and fat. I just think young dogs sometimes need that bit extra while they're growing, while they're filling out. Echo's getting to the point now where he doesn't really need it, but he does really like it, so we might just keep going with it. So as for feeding routines, it is hard to give any one advice to people about feeding routines. It is very breed specific, and it is also specific to how much energy, how much exercise and stuff your dog's going through, how much calories it's burning through. However, for border collies and most working breeds, all dogs in general digest food a lot slower than us, but for border collies and other working breeds, they tend to do better on one large meal a day rather than several meals, because it works better with the digestive systems that they have. It takes a border collie about 8 hours to start digesting its food. So you can actually get a lot of problems with overfeeding dogs, where you're feeding them too many times a day, which means it's pushing the food through their digestive systems faster than it would naturally, which basically means your dog isn't taking in all the nutrients from its food, and essentially it doesn't really matter, but you're probably going to be using a lot more food than you need to get the same result. It's not to say that is all my dogs get all day is one big meal. They get treats throughout the day. I generally try to stick to meaty type treats, natural treats, which either have oil or protein and things that are good for the dogs in them. I also feed a lot of like bone, antlers, cow's feet, cow's hooves, things that have a lot of calcium, things that have a lot of oils, things that are going to those kind of things they can take to their kennel and they can chew on for a while, or they can sit out here and chew on for a while. Keeps them entertained, but they're also getting some sort of nutrients or some sort of goodness out of them as well. So I do feed a lot of treats, but we also feed a lot of bone and things like that, which maybe isn't filling the dog's belly as much, but it is getting both enrichment and nutrients from them. Instead with the treats, we try and keep to things that are like natural, meaty. We don't give especially with the working dogs, we don't give them too much human food. Dogs' digestive systems, again, aren't really set up to cope with certain human foods, like very starchy foods like bread, things like that have the wrong sort of fat for dogs. So when we're talking about dogs, we try and keep, especially with the working dogs, the things that are healthy for them. And that's not to say they don't get anything off our plates. They get, if there's leftover meat, they get the meat. Fish, another thing we use a lot as treats actually is fish, because fish is really good for your dog, really good for joints, really good for the coat. So we try and stick to things that have some sort of benefit to the dog. How do you know? Storm, sit, stay. So how do you know if your dog is in good condition? So the simplest thing you can do, Storm, here, sit, is run your hand down your dog's back, and you should be able to feel the spine but not see it. So you should be able to feel the bones in the spine but not see them. And that's how you know if your dog's in good condition. A couple of other things that you can do. Storm won't sit still, but when you're looking at your dog from the side, there should be some tuck up from the chest, but not a dramatic amount. So basically the chest should be slightly lower than the waist, if you see what I mean. There's a sort of slight rise up to the back end from the chest. Or again, if you run your hand down your dog's side, you should be able to feel the ribs but not see the ribs. So that sort of works with the short coated dogs. With the longer coated ones, it would be hard to see bones anyway, even if they were skinny. So you've got to sort of go by feel. Going by feel, basically what I'm looking for is I should be able to just feel where the bones are. I shouldn't be able to sort of put my finger into an indent in between bones or anything like that. I should just just be able to feel them, but not be like going into the dips in the dog's spine or be able to feel a huge indent beside the rib. I should just be able to feel them as I run along the skin. So quickly, and something that I've spoke a little bit about in the past, but enrichment. There are people out there that say, oh, your working dog shouldn't play with toys and stuff, it'll ruin them. Not true. So dogs release stress, they release anxiety, playing with toys is actually very good for a dog's mental state. Chewing on something, chewing on a bone, chewing on a toy. Fetch is the wrong instincts for a working dog, so I wouldn't recommend playing fetch with a working dog because it sort of promotes biting. We don't really want to promote biting in our working dog, and it also promotes running in a straight line after something. Again, when we are working a sheepdog, we don't really run at straight lines at the sheep. We're always going side to side, so it does promote the wrong instincts. For a sheepdog, it promotes more of hunting dog instincts. But the act of chewing on, playing with toys, and engaging in stuff like that will do wonders for your dog. It absolutely won't hurt your dog's working instinct. If anything, it will give your dog a way to relax, a way for your dog to switch off when it's outside of work and relax, and it will actually help your dog's sort of mental state. It will help your dog calm down and things like that. So letting your dogs have toys and play with toys will not hurt a working dog. Sort of topic I get asked about a lot is sort of protecting my dogs from things like worms, parasites, things like that. And yes, we do that. Every dog, every pet, almost every animal needs some sort of animal that is domesticated, needs some sort of protection from these things. It is especially important in a farming environment that you're worming your dogs correctly, and always look at the wormers you're using, because not every wormer treats every type of worm. Sometimes you'll have to use 2 wormers, maybe one for the likes of tapeworm, and then a lot of the wormers that do like gastral worms and roundworms will do both, but quite often you'll have to look at a separate wormer for tapeworms. It's extremely important when we're talking about sheepdogs. Sheepdogs are around stock all the time, so dogs can infect sheep, sheep can infect dogs, so it is very important that you're keeping both the sheep and the dogs protected against worms. Recently somebody was asking about fleas. I really haven't had a lot of experience of my dogs getting fleas. I think we've had like 1 incident in about 7 years where a dog got fleas. I don't know if this is breed specific. I don't know if it's because my dogs live outside. I don't know if it's because my dogs don't really go to dog parks and interact with a huge amount of dogs that are outside our work. I mean, we work with another pack of dogs, but just haven't had a huge experience of it. Comment down below why you think that is. But we do treat our dogs for flies, and it also does fleas, so that might be the reason. Again, we do this as and when needed, so I don't regularly treat my dogs for ticks all year round. We tend to get ticks here in Scotland from mid-spring through summer, so we treat them through mid-spring and summer, and we don't tend to get ticks the rest of the year, so I don't treat them for it. Other than that, the rest of the stuff is just general common sense. Dogs should always have access to water. They should always have access to a sheltered, dry place to lie down and sleep. That's about it, guys. So thank you very much for watching this video, and that'll do for this one. If you have any questions, if there's anything you think I've left out, leave it in a comment down below and I will try my best to answer it.